Wow, it's getting more and more treacherous in Australia. Some really dire times there. It seems that the government of Australia has been infiltrated by a number of traitors who are holding their country hostage and selling it out to the highest bidder. This is a total betrayal of the freedom-loving Australians. We have a number of stories that I want to cover in this video. I don't even know which one to lead with because there are so many crazy things happening in Australia. They're proposing things like fining people $11,000 for talking about protests online. They're threatening to fine people $20,000 if they quote-unquote organize a protest. We have the police department bragging that they got 15,000 snitch calls of people ratting out their neighbors, their families, their friends for being at the protest on Saturday. So let's dive into the news here. This is the first thing I wanted to cover. $11,000 fines are being threatened. They're talking about a new law in Australia that they want to pass. $11,000 if you post the wrong thing on social media that stands in opposition with this treasonous, tyrannical Australian government. They're making dissent illegal. Absolutely disgusting. Here's a really good article on Summit News that really summarizes what's going on. Australians who post anti-lockdown content online could face $11,000 in fines. So they have their New World Order COVID agenda, and you can't question it because that's dangerous to the health of others. You see how this gives them shelter to do whatever they want? They just say it's a health emergency. They just say it's for the collective good. The subheadline here, citizens who plan and attend protests being spoken about as if they were terrorists. This article is by Paul Joseph Watson. If you post anti-lockdown information online, you could face fines of up to $11,000 under a draconian new piece of legislation. Now look at this. And this is out of New South Wales. This is a proposed legislation. Protest organizers would be fined $20,000, and people who attend would be fined $5,500. You know how evil this is? This is a crime against humanity, a massive one that's happening right now in Australia. These are some of the most draconian measures we've ever seen. Basic human freedoms like the right to assemble, the right to protest, the right to redress your government of grievances. Those are being systematically stripped away from the good people of this world, especially in Australia. Now, where's the U.S. government invading Australia to spread democracy, to spread freedom? Absolute insanity. The law would punish, quote, people sharing information on social media about illegal rallies and inciting others to illegally attend. So $20,000 if you organize a protest, $5,500 if you show up and attend the protest, and one of your brown shirt neighbor Stasi informants rats you out. And then if you share information about rallies, I don't know, like a photo saying, shout out to all the people who protested, or as they would call it, glorifying protests, that's $11,000 in fines. This is crazy. And of course, like the article says, this is to neutralize the grassroots protest movement in Australia that's grown out of a need. It's grown out of the absolute despotism, the total authoritarianism that's overtaken much of the world and has a stronghold in Australia. Look at this. Police Minister Walt Secord said the massive fines were needed to, quote, throw the book at these idiots who spread misinformation and lies along with the Delta variant. My goodness. So he's calling people idiots. He's saying they're spreading misinformation. This is not misinformation. Standing up to a neo-Nazi authoritarian communist regime is practical and it's in line with human values and the ideals of freedom. It's never a good idea. It's never for the collective good to trade our individual freedoms or to let them be stripped from us by people who promise us security in exchange. Time and time again throughout history, that's proven to be an idiotic idea. That's the misinformation, that's a good idea. They're making masks compulsory, even outdoors. Fines of $500 if you don't muzzle up for your government. Wow. And of course, this story comes to mind, this pregnant woman who was arrested in her home for a Facebook post. I'm sure you remember this. The police barged in, confiscated her computers, her phones, placed her under arrest. accused her of organizing a protest. Organizing a protest against tyranny should be applauded. It should be glorified. It should be praised. But of course, the government, the 1984 Big Brother government, which stands to lose everything by a populist uprising, hates the notion of the people getting organized and standing up together and throwing off their chains. Now check this clip out. Australian military deployed in Sydney to make sure you are isolating and following orders. They will be knocking on doors. So the Australian military is preparing to knock on thousands of people's doors, according to this propaganda news. Check this out.
Now, those breaking Sydney's lockdown laws will be under closer watch from tomorrow. The Defence Force officially deployed to the compliance operation. Let's go to Nine's Laura Tunstall, who's reporting to us from Sydney tonight. Laura, which suburbs will hundreds of these ADF personnel actually head to first?
Well, Pete, they'll be spread out across Sydney, but of course most of their work will be in those 8 local government areas that have the most COVID cases. 300 military personnel have undergone their pre-deployment training this weekend so that they're ready to hit the streets tomorrow morning. They'll be working in conjunction with New South Wales Police, and their main task is to ensure that close contacts are in fact isolating. They will be knocking on the doors of thousands of homes. They're also here to support any logistics that are needed as well. That may include things like roadblocks, Pete.
Laura, thank you.
How do these hack propagandists live with themselves? To pretend to be journalists? To dress up as journalists? To speak like journalists? And to be mouthpieces for one of the most evil governments I've ever seen? Going door to door to see if people are in the wrong house? And it's hard to even summarize all the crazy stuff we've seen out of Australia in the past months, as 2 weeks to flatten the curve turned to 18 months of communism, extracting all the resources, all of the little amount of wealth that the good people of this world had, being systematically stolen from us by these crimes against humanity. Look at this ridiculous Sydney police officer entertaining ridiculous questions from the press corps about, are you going to go door to door? Oh yeah, absolutely.
Be going suburb to suburb, street to street, door to door, knocking on these and actively looking for people who are in the wrong house and finding them on the spot.
Yeah, look, absolutely. Overnight we conducted hundreds of checks, particularly of those who were close contacts or who have the virus. Thankfully, everyone was home as they were supposed to be on health advice. We'll continue to do that. We know home-to-home transmission is a huge issue for us.
You're a huge issue for us. This is ridiculous. Like, what's next? What they have in Israel, the freedom bracelets, which is a ridiculous name. It's an anti-freedom tracking device to keep people under house arrest with minimal oversight and management required by the police and the law enforcers. Absolute tyranny. We already see where this is going. The contact tracing apps telling people you have to stay home and isolate. Children getting ripped from their parents' homes. Families divided. Concentration camps. Extermination camps. Disgusting. Mass starvation is on the horizon because we have lunatics setting the ship on fire.
We know that people are bringing it home from work sites that aren't complying with health orders. So if you think about the powers that I've asked for, it will take it to those businesses that are breaching the health orders, and it will take it back to the homes that are continuing to breach the health orders that are putting us into an extended lockdown.
I hate that argument so much, and they know it's ridiculous, where they blame the protesters, they blame the people not locking down or who call for an end to the lockdowns for the extended lockdowns. It's so evil. Blaming the victim for their victimization. Blaming the victim for the crimes perpetrated upon them. Now, these are some of the questions that reporters were asking the police. Now, this is the media who's supposed to be holding governments to account and preventing tyranny from spreading like the plague. But they apparently have the same masters. Look at these ridiculous questions.
Suburb to suburb, street to street, door to door, knocking on these and actively looking for people who are in the wrong house and finding them on the spot.
Yeah, look, absolutely. Overnight we conducted hundreds of checks.
Door-to-door. You say, what about, to Liz's question, random door-to-door checks, not just close contacts, people in these LGAs, people where you think, people in areas where you think the virus is spreading in households?
You have to come down hard.
Curfews, bring in the army or the ring of steel, are any of those off the table at this point?
Nothing is off the table between...
Will you change the rule to prevent, to limit the travel for compassionate reasons to just 5 kilometres?
There's been a number of commentators, one in particular, who's called into question the need for a lockdown, called into question the expertise of the Chief Health Officer. What do you say to people like Alan Jones who've made those comments publicly and keep...
Absolutely ridiculous. These people are just as much to blame. They're so negligent, they're actually cheering on this fascist, totalitarian, authoritarian regime, asking them to do more, legitimizing what they're doing with their questions. That's the real evil here. And people are very suggestible, so they hear the news reporters asking these questions. And unfortunately, many people will come away with the conclusion, oh man, the government really needs to do more. They really need to clamp down a little harder. They need to tighten those screws more and more. Now, you may have heard in Sydney, the military has been deployed to help keep people locked down. We have martial law, total martial law. We have the military and the police all over the streets in Australia with the stated objective of keeping people down, locking people down. I can't think of many things more evil than that. They're actively saying, hey, we're deploying the military on the streets, the ADF, the Australian Defence Force, on the streets to make sure that people don't practice their human rights, don't exercise their human rights. Disgusting. Here's a tweet from Sky News. An additional 300 Australian Defence Force personnel have been deployed onto Sydney's streets after New South Wales Police Commissioner Mick Fuller submitted a formal request for assistance on Thursday. An additional 300, so I have no idea what the total is. But we're moving in the wrong direction. And not to be outdone by Communist China, or perhaps to be outdone by Communist China, Nazi Australia is rolling out collective punishment thresholds. We will punish the entire population until enough of you submit. And we know with these maniacs, once they get one of their objectives, they just move the goalposts. Look at this. Australia's Prime Minister has announced that post-COVID-19 restrictions will require a national vaccination rate of 70%. I think they're under 20% right now, maybe even under 15% in Australia. Here's a post by Natalie Brown. The PM has announced that 70% of Australia's eligible population must be fully vaccinated in order to enter Phase B of its 4-step plan out of the pandemic. So like I said, they're already announcing that the goalposts will be moved. We're in Phase A, so there's 4 phases, A, B, C, and D. We'll go into Phase B. We'll leave square one. We'll leave square A. Once we get to 70%, this is insanity. And we all know that the mandates and the forcing are coming extremely soon. We need to put our foot down now because we know they're just going to scare people with cases, scare people with deaths, and then roll these things out with the military and the police and these soulless medical workers. Now look at this one. This is even worse. Australia will not reopen its borders for travel until 80% of the population is vaccinated, says Scott Morrison, Prime Minister of Australia. 80%. Nobody can come in, nobody can leave. Now here's some scenes from the street in Melbourne.
Need to ask you, have you been diagnosed positive with COVID-19?
No, I'm not sick. I'm perfectly well. Where's your ID as an authorised officer? Where is it? Where is it? Under the Public Health and Safety Act 2008.
Look at all these cops. So many cops. All right, this is very important to note. Scott Morrison came out the other day with this speech here. Many people are calling him a traitor, calling him treasonous. Let's just play that clip first. And then the obvious thing to compare this to was 1 week ago, where he was talking about informed consent. Now, I have a problem with both of these speeches. And actually, this one on the right was him answering a question about people who allegedly weren't told all of the side effect possibilities. And one of them even died. And he says, well, it's up to me to give my consent. And I have to do my own research. Just a ridiculous answer. Taking away the responsibility from the medical providers to inform the patients, which is their Nuremberg Code duty. And it's also just totally antithetical to the Nuremberg Code to say that the patient has to research everything on the internet. And it's totally antithetical to the Nuremberg Code to say that the doctor doesn't have to give the patient the information, that the patient should look that all up on the internet. I mean, just think about how crazy that is, especially given how much internet propaganda and censorship there's been to make the benefits of these vaccines seem greater and the drawbacks and risks seem lessened. Let's watch this clip.
We will ease restrictions in Phase B on vaccinated residents. The details of that are still to be worked through. They're still to be determined. So those matters have not been settled, and we've established a small working group involving the Northern Territory, Victoria and Tasmania, and they will lead the work on that process with their officials and those premiers, bringing back to the National Cabinet a set of recommendations as to what the options will be for those different arrangements for vaccinated residents in Phase B. So if you get vaccinated, there will be special rules that apply to you. Why? Because if you're vaccinated, you present less of a public health risk. You are less likely to get the virus. You are less likely to transmit it. You are less likely to get a serious illness and be hospitalised, and you are less likely to die.
It's so dumb. Their arguments are falling apart with their new announcements. Like, you could definitely make the case. This isn't the route that I would go, because I think there's more important arguments to make. But let's look at their vaccine passport argument and what they're saying about vaccinated people still spreading the disease, but not knowing they have it. If one of us unvaccinated people gets sick, then if what they're saying is correct, we're more likely to get symptoms. So we'll stay at home. We won't go to work. We won't go to school. We won't go around our elders. But if you're way more likely to be asymptomatic with the vaccine, but you can still spread it, then there's no real benefit as far as public transmission goes. Now, there are multiple levels of evil tyranny here. First off, the collective punishment. We have to hit 70% before X, Y, and Z, right? And if we don't hit 70%, everybody's going to pay, even if you did what we said. So that fosters and that breeds resentment and contempt from the vaccinated to the unvaccinated. And then also, not just collective punishment, but also individual punishment. Even if we hit 70%, if you don't take the vaccine, we're going to punish you further. And a lot of times they frame these punishments as actually being benefits for the vaccinated. They say, well, now the new normal is that we have evil totalitarian tyranny. But we'll make your life a little easier if you get the vaccine. That's a carrot, right? No, that's a stick. You're saying we're going to stop beating you with a stick if you do what we say. Make sure to get that booster shot, and then the next one, and then the next one. If you want that app to stay green, if you want your Health Nazi app to stay green, you better take all those booster shots. You better not be posting any misinformation. Now let's compare what he just said here with what he said a week ago.
We will ease restrictions in Phase B on vaccinated residents. So if you get vaccinated, there will be special rules that apply to you, and the informed consent process provides the decision to the individual. That's the sort of country we live in. People make their own decisions about their own health and their own bodies.
You can make your own decisions, but we'll punish you if you make the wrong decision. Wow. And we'll engage in war crimes against our own population with collective punishment requirements.
That's why we don't have mandatory vaccination. Why? Because if you're vaccinated, you present less of a public health risk. You are less likely to get the virus. you are less likely to transmit it, you are less likely to get a serious illness and be hospitalised, and you are less likely to die. Well, we're all responsible for our own health. And when it comes to informed consent and giving consent to whatever treatment or procedure you may have or I may have, then I'm ultimately responsible for what people do in their health treatment to me.
See, that line always bugged me. I'm ultimately responsible. Yes, you have the ultimate say, but you can still be misled with fraud and deceit into making the wrong decision, and shame on whoever did that, fed you the wrong information, or withheld crucial information that you had a right to know.
If you get vaccinated, there will be special rules that apply to you. That's the sort of country we live in. People make their own decisions about their own health and their own bodies. That's why we don't have mandatory vaccination.
So that's from Rukshan on Twitter, the real Rukshan. He does great work. He's in Australia. He's an independent journalist. Okay, here is Dan Andrews talking about collective punishment as well.
Not over. And on that basis, there will be rules of one form or another between now and when we get a peak vax number. And even then, there'll perhaps be some restrictions for those people who've not got vaccinated.
Isn't that interesting? He basically says the exact same thing. We're going for the collective punishment threshold, which he calls peak vaccination, whatever the hell that means. Probably means they're going to roll out booster shots, so everyone's going to be taken off of fully vaccinated status until they get their booster shot, so it's going to dip down. Although likely they'll force this on everybody. But they want to get closer to that 100% before they pull the trigger, I think, on the force. Although a lot of what they're already doing is force, obviously. But then, after they reach their peak threshold, they're still going to have additional rules and limitations and restrictions on people who made the wrong choice and didn't love Big Brother, Big Pharma.
Because just think this, there'll be another time for us to talk about all those issues, but
there'll be another time for us to talk about that. So we'll drip this out in a way that socially engineers people and steers people into the desired behaviors. There's another time. Our social engineers, our social scientists, our behavioral psychologists told us, let's get to 70%, then we'll tell people the next bullshit, coercion tactics. Evil, evil stuff. Speaking of evil, listen to Dan Andrews play dumb here. Oh, I don't know what they're protesting about. They're protesting against the global world order? Yes, we're protesting against that.
And I would just appeal to anybody who's frustrated, and I get that people are frustrated, but it seemed to me that they were protesting about a whole lot of things yesterday. Not just coronavirus, but, the global world order and vaccines and all sorts of different things.
It seems to me they were protesting about a whole bunch of different things. Of course, that's what a protest is. When you have hundreds of thousands or even 1 million plus people protesting something, of course you're going to have different factions, different types of people mixed in there. And what does he mean? They weren't just protesting coronavirus. Like, how can you be so dense? He's not. This guy's smart. He wouldn't be put in this position unless he could think on his feet and lie very well. And that's what he's doing here. Pretending to misunderstand what the people are protesting. They're protesting coronavirus? Are you an idiot, Dan Andrews? I mean, anyone who would sell their soul, sell out their entire country is an idiot, in my opinion. Maybe he got in too deep. Maybe they have him compromised. Maybe he's just on the take with the bribery, but this is insane. Of course the people are protesting his tyranny. He knows this.
Vaccines and all sorts of different things. That is so.
They're not protesting the vaccine. They're protesting the forcing of the vaccine. They're not protesting coronavirus. They're protesting the COVID agenda for a totalitarian takeover of the world and all its resources and a massive wealth transfer from the poor and the working class to the super wealthy and their henchmen. Now listen here. This is where it really pisses me off. Oh, protesting for freedom is selfish. No, shutting down the entire country for your special interest masters, Dan Andrews, that is selfish. Selling out the people that you grew up with, the people of your country, selling them out for a paycheck, for a seat at this evil cabal's table, that is selfish.
things yesterday, not just coronavirus, but, you know, the global world order and vaccines and all sorts of different things. That is self-indulgent, it's selfish, it's wrong.
It's not wrong.
And Victoria Police are having a close look at everybody who was involved. It's no way
Tyrants.
to behave. And
that's exactly how we need to behave. Our authority are not these pigs in uniform and in the halls of government. Our authority is the Lord. Our authority is God. And God's laws are how we dictate our behavior, not the laws of little tyrants like Dan Andrews. So this is the situation in Sydney. Another 4 weeks of lockdowns for Sydney. Another month, and then they'll just extend it even further, probably. Here's another clip from Dan Andrews, the liar himself.
it doesn't relent. It is there until we all get vaccinated, and even after then, what we see around the world is a pandemic of the unvaccinated. We're going to have challenges for a long time, but no one's got time to reflect like that. But I would say that it doesn't relent. It is there until.
Wow. This one's crazy too. This one's pretty funny because the reporter jumps in. He's like, I don't know what they're protesting. And the reporter says, you.
We're not cuddling up to these people. And frankly, seriously, I'm making a serious point. I don't know what half of them were protesting against. Well, a lot of them. Then,
you, a lot of them, she says. That's so funny.
Good on them. Except, it's illegal.
It's illegal to protest against me, says Dan Andrews.
It's unsafe.
It's unsafe to protest against me. No, that's the safest thing Australia could do right now. You know what the least safe thing Australia's done in the past few years is give up their guns, right? When individuals give up their rights and the government absorbs these powers, we become less safe. We become more endangered. We become more enslaved. And the governments become more emboldened.
Selfish, and it puts at risk the hard work that millions of other Victorians.
And just a reminder, in Massachusetts, they had an outbreak with 75% vaccinated. UK scientists are actually coming out and saying it's almost certain a coronavirus variant will emerge that beats the current vaccines. Now, I don't believe anything that CNN cites as science. I think this is all part of the agenda. But their narrative is crumbling. And the last thing that we should do is hand them more power and be like, well, you guys tried. We're going to be patient with you. You guys do what you need to do. Let's roll out some more tyranny and lock things down some more. No, we need to stop giving them any leeway. And that's why what's happening in Australia pisses me off so much. So again, ADF called in to assist in Sydney's lockdown. New South Wales is implementing martial law. I like this line here. Australia went to war to defeat Nazism, and we now have copied our enemies. So here's another police Gestapo goon here.
We had a question of the lady, the journalist here before, about some people not wanting to take vaccines. Well, my message to them is you being extremely selfish.
This is coercion. This is what's called a guilt trip. Playing on people's latent guilt that they put into us. They instill this guilt into us at a young age. And then they weaponize it. They hijack it. They exploit it. It's coercion. It's wrong. It should be rejected. This is not how you push medicine on a patient. You don't say you're an idiot if you don't do what we want you to do. You're selfish. You're hurting other people. Blah, blah, blah. That's not in line with the Nuremberg Code. It's not in line with informed consent.
If you think you can not have a vaccine,
everybody can not have a vaccine if they don't want it.
Because you don't want to have a vaccine, well, you should think about what you're doing to your family and to the community. And I would say even more than that, what a hide you have, what a ridiculous position is that when you're going to put health staff at risk, and when you get sick, you're going to expect to come into hospital and get paid for by taxpayers. You know what? It's time for those who actually think that way to wake up, including commentators who actually don't base their commentary in any logic whatsoever.
So the governments are using this COVID agenda to steal trillions, tens of trillions probably, from all the people of this world, all the taxpayers of the different countries. It's all an agenda. It's all going to their favorite industries, to their favorite companies, to their friends. And then they say, you don't have any right to that because you're not taking part in the other part of this agenda, which is we're hooking up our big pharma colleagues with huge sales and rolling out forced medicine and adult vaccine schedules enforced by health Nazi passports. Insanity. Tyranny. So the police really locked down last week, over this weekend, after that huge protest 2 weeks ago. And they've been coming out and threatening people. This is what it looked like in Hyde Park in Sydney on Saturday. Just a bunch of police gathering, show of force. And what's the message that they're projecting? No protest, no dissent, no opposition, no speaking out. Now they're threatening to fine people $11,000 for the wrong opinion on Facebook. They're threatening to fine people $20,000 for, quote, organizing a protest, and $5,500 for attending a protest. So sick. Now, this is somebody having a beer in Australia being hounded by these Stasi agents. Check this out.
What's that from? What's it from? Yeah, why do you got an exemption, or who's giving it to you? Oh, doctor's giving it to me, mate. Do you have a doctor's note or something there?
Sure, yeah. Yeah, there is. Why does it matter what I need to give it to you for?
We can have one of those, though. Nice film. Just come with us and we'll have a chat about outside.
Outside? Yeah. Why outside? Why can't we chat about it here?
No, we'll talk about outside. Why can't we chat about it here?
They asked for a doctor's note. Personal, privileged, confidential, patient information. People have to carry around a note from their doctor now. It's insane. And then also note how the cop is very uneasy about being filmed, which should tell you something about his conscience.
You're not going to play the game, are you?
What game? I'm not playing any games. I've got a medical issue.
So you just want to film us, you just want to cause a hindrance. Is that what
I'm not causing a hindrance. I'm sitting there minding my own business and you're coming here harassing me.
We're not harassing you. We've been told that you don't have a mask.
I've got a mask exemption right here.
That means nothing.
Hey?
That means nothing.
Why does it mean nothing? I've just told you that I have it from a doctor.
Show it to us.
Why do I need to show it to you?
Mate, you're going to have to leave. We'll take you outside.
Don't touch me.
Sorry?
Please don't touch me.
We're going to take you outside.
I'm sitting here minding my own business. Please don't touch me.
Have I touched you?
Aren't you supposed to be 1.5 metres away? You're coming close to me. You got guns on you. You got tasers. You got weapons. Why are you trying to intimidate me?
No one's trying to intimidate. Mate, you're going to leave the airport right now. Let's go. Let's go.
Don't touch my seat. Why are you touching my seat?
Come on, fellas. You've got an exemption, eh?
I've got an exemption. I've got a medical issue.
Show us the exemption.
I've got a medical issue.
Show us
What's
the
your
exemption.
name?
Show us the exemption.
What's your name?
You can read.
10730 Dale Harmer. And what's your name, please?
16566.
16566 Lee. Okay. So what are you saying? You're saying I'm a liar, that I don't have a medical exemption?
I didn't say it, mate.
Well, then why are you harassing me for?
I'm asking for
I've told you that I've got one.
Show it to me.
Why?
Because I've asked for it.
Well, actually, it's a private issue between me and my GP.
You've got it, mate. You're just going to show us that you've got an exemption.
Why do I
tell
need...
you what's wrong with it.
How do you know? Have you read it?
Is that what it does? You just want to
Potentially?
play games with
Potentially? I'm not playing a game, man. I'm sitting here minding my own business and you've come here and harassed me.
All right? Well, I'm going to ask you to leave the airport. All right? You have to wear a mask in the airport. Come on, let's go. I'm asking you to leave the airport.
What are you touching me for? Look at this.
You're not following the directions. You're not following the directions.
I can't just harass people like this, fellas.
Like we said,
I have a medical condition.
Show us the medical certificate.
And I'll just talk to
At the airport, he's stated to me that he's got an exemption.
All good, right?
Okay. And what was the reason for that? That's right. So have I got Dr. here?
Yep.
Yep. Can you repeat that for me, please?
Can you tell me who's there?
Yep, it's me and Mr.
Oh, okay. Well, then, if he's there, he suffers from cancer.
Yep.
Is that sufficient?
He suffers from cancer.
Yep.
So obviously he's unable to wear a mask if required.
If required to.
Yep. All right. No problems at all.
Okay.
All right. What was your name? Sorry.
So is that sufficient enough for you guys?
We're just going to make another phone call.
This is insane.
That's okay. Well, I've got my little on film, so I know I was well behaved. I wasn't the one that assaulted someone while he was minding his own business.
So
as I work for the government and I enforce the laws by the government. That's what I'm here for.
But harassing people when they've got legitimate medical conditions is pretty unacceptable behaviour, I think.
That's obviously your opinion.
It's a bit excessive in there.
Well, that's why I wear this, so it avoids that confusion.
That's nothing, mate.
See that?
It looks like it.
Wow. That's insane. All of this is insane. That's a good segue to this. Look at this dystopian future for us all. Helicopters paid for by our tax money and their sweetheart deals with the central banks where they create all this debt in our name, pile all this debt on our shoulders, and then they make out like bandits, like highway robbers. And then look at this helicopter announcing from the sky the lockdown BS. Anybody breaching the public health order will be issued with a fine, says the eye in the sky. Now here's another clip. Australian cops detaining and hospitalizing a person who didn't even commit a crime. Check this out.
You make things easier, man. You guys are making it hard. I'm telling you, I want to go home. This is a police state now, bro. You guys are taking my freedom away from me.
We don't want to.
Well, that's what you're doing. This guy said you're not a free man.
Yeah, but you're not free to leave. That's the only thing.
But he said I'm not a free man. So what else?
Free to leave.
Come on, man, bro. Just please let me go, bro. What do you want? You want money? I got my wallet. I'll give you his money. Just let me go.
We just want you to go and speak to a doctor. That's
I don't want to speak to a doctor, but
you need to speak to a doctor.
I don't need to.
Yes.
But I'm telling you, he's not going to help me.
That's not the point.
Oh my God, bro.
What is going on here? You need to see a doctor? He's not going to help me. That's not the point. The point's not to be helped by the doctor. Why do we have to go see the doctor? This is insanity. And I think this is why they're weeding out the police and why they're purging the free thinkers from the hospital and the medical industry. I'm very concerned about what's coming in terms of forced medicine, in terms of chemical lobotomies, in terms of sterilization. This is disgusting behavior.
It's not coming to, man. I'm not going hospital, boys. Boys, I'm not going hospital, boys. I'm telling you, I'm not going to go. I'm not going to go hospital. I'm telling you, I'm not going to go. I don't want to go hospital.
But we don't force you, man.
Well, technically you are, man.
I know, but we don't want to. That's the thing. You know, man, it's a lot easier. You get
Oh, bro, here we go. Oh, you're bringing back up. You're getting back up. Are you kidding me, man? Oh, here we fucking go, man.
Just get in there.
There's one of me, bro. Are you serious?
We'll go and speak to the doctor, and that's the end of the story.
I'm not gonna. No, man.
You're threatening us and telling us if we try and take you, it's going to. What did you say before? It's going to be on or something. You know what I mean?
What?
Well, what you said to us before, you're going to be aggressive. So.
No. Oh my God. Here we go, bro. Let's see these cunts now, bro.
Let's go.
Man, I ain't going, man. Oh, you bought another one?
Come on, 207, no further
Oh, you bought 4 cops? Oh, here we go, bro. Oh, what's this now?
Alright, mate, so put your phone down. Are you going to comply? Are you just going to go? Or are you going to...
No, I don't want to go to the
Because
hospital.
I don't want to put handcuffs on you.
I don't want to go to hospital, but...
You're not a criminal, I don't want to put handcuffs on you.
Exactly, so let me go if I'm not a criminal.
It's time to go, mate, we've waited long enough, alright?
No, I'm not going to go. I don't want to go.
You don't have a choice.
I don't want to go to hospital, man. I don't want to go to hospital. Bro, don't touch me, man. What are you doing, bro? Don't fucking touch me, man. What the fuck are you doing, bro? Hey, bro. Hey! Are you fucking serious? What the fuck? Hey!
Horrific. Horrific, intense scenes from Australia. I'm speechless. My heart goes out to all of the great people in Australia. If you're in a country where you can actually speak out, we have a moral obligation to come to the Australians' defense. This is not all right how they're being treated. It's not all right how anybody's being treated around the world right now. We need justice, and we need it soon. We need to rise up. We need to stand up against this. This is wrong. This is inhumane. This is criminal what they're doing to us. And if all the victims of these atrocities came together, put our brains together, and together threw off our chains, we could put an end to this tyranny overnight. So everybody, please keep plugging away. Don't give up. Don't give up hope. Don't give up, period. And if you want to support this show and get many more reports and support the reports that I put together, check out groupdiscover.com. For the next 24 hours, we're running a big sale, 50% off for new members with the coupon code FREESPEECH. All lowercase, one word, free speech gets you 50% off. That's a recurring lifetime discount for new members who signed up using the coupon code FREESPEECH. Goes a long way to support the show. Thank you to everybody who supports this show and who watches and who shares. I hope you all have a great rest of your day. Let's keep fighting. Many more reports to come. Thanks so much. Have a great day.